Okay, so the topics we are going, no, not the topics, just the topic. So the topic we are going to discuss today, you can call it one of the most advanced and one of the most used things when it comes to development. What we did until at this point, for example, I think we have around 40 to 50 classes that we took from the day one to today. So what we did until now, it all comes under the front end development. Okay, is the front end we did. Today we are going to be discussing about something that links up our front end and our back end. So what do you think front end is? So before starting with any of this, what is front end? What do you think front end is?
फ्रंट
Something
एंड
that's visible
Exactly,
for
विजिबल
the
that's
viewer.
visible.
यूजर का इंटरेक्शन होता है सर जिससे
Exactly,
हो रहा
exactly good. So the UI or user interface that you see, like the website you see, is called front end. Like whatever you see on a website is called front end. But what you don't see is the back end. Okay, so what do I mean by what you don't see? So for example, what you see here now is the front end, like the charts and the names and the assignments, the dates and everything is the front end. But where are all of these things coming from? Like, did I just code it up, or are they dynamic? Are they coming from somewhere?
Coming from someone.
They're coming from somewhere, yeah. So where are they coming from? They are coming from something we call a database. Okay, so basically a database is something that stores all of your data. Let's talk about something more practical. So for example, we all have accounts on Instagram. Okay, we all do. So we have accounts on Instagram. So when you open Instagram, what you see are a lot of posts, comments, likes, shares, and all of it. So all of that comes under the definition of front end. Okay, whatever you see. So where are all of the posts coming from? Where are they coming from?
A
है
A
database.
database, yes. So whenever you post a comment, or whenever you do a post, or whenever you like something, all of it is recorded inside a database. Okay, all of it, like each and everything, the exact timing of that thing, who did it, on which post they did it, like everything is being recorded and all of it is saved in a database. So database is a my mic still again messing up. Okay, so what we did until now is a different thing and database is a different thing. Okay, they are both hosted on different platforms, different places. Now we need something that links up both of these things. Like front end is different, back end is different. Now we need something that links up the two things, and that is what I'm talking about, the today's topic, one of the most advanced topics in development, and it's called APIs, application programming. It's still messing up. Okay, so the topic is API, application. Mic, let me disable my mic and then enable it again because it's messing up. Okay, so the topic is API, and what does an API do? It connects your front end to your back end. Okay, does the theoretical part is clear? Like, what does an API do? What does it do?
Connects the front end to the back end.
Exactly, connects the front end to the back end. For example, we have a lot of data. For example, let's take the example of Instagram as we are discussing it. So we have a lot of posts, a lot of comments, a lot of likes that are stored in a database, but we don't want to see it inside the database. We want to see it on the front end. So what do? We call an API that fetches all of the things and get us that into the front end. Okay, so we are going to today discuss about the API. I'm going to repeat again, this is one of the most advanced topics, so if you don't get anything, feel free to ask. Okay, so what is an API? API is something that connects your front end to your back end. And if you were to do more simple thing, a more simple definition of API, so API is simply a link. Okay, it's a link that gets the data for us. So the API we are going to use today today is, it's called API dot, I'm going to provide you this API for the homework, .github.com slash users. This is a fairly, although it's just a gibberish data, a
I
lot
can't
of
hear
data.
you again.
It's again disabled. Okay, anyways, so if you don't hear me, please tell me right there and then, so that I can unmute it. Although I have disconnected and connected again, but still it's messing up. Okay, anyways, so what I was saying is, so what you see here now is a lot of data that is coming from the backend, and who's getting that for us? This little thing is getting all of the data from the database to our front end. This thing into
Can't hear you again.
let me disconnect my mic from the USB port, and I'll do it again. Wait.
I can't hear you again.
Okay, I've made a reset. Let's see. So what do we want to do? We want to fetch all of this data, the data you're seeing here, and this coming from the backend. We want to fetch all of this data into our own website. So what data structures are you seeing? What is this? What is these brackets for? These brackets, what are these brackets for?
Array.
Array. Good. And when do we use arrays?
And we have a large amount of
Very good.
different data
So
types.
do we have a large amount of data?
Yeah.
We do. So that's why we're using what? We're using arrays. Okay. And what are these brackets for? What are these brackets for? We discussed about this.
Uh, yeah, for data.
No. These are the brackets
For
for.
function?
No. Functions brackets are round brackets. So what are these brackets, the curly braces for? These are for the objects. And what are objects? Like, how do we store data in an object? Arrays are used to store data, objects are used to store data. So what's the difference between the two? Like you said, array stores a large amount of data. Okay, objects also store a large amount of data, but what's the difference between these two? Like, both of them are storing data, so what's the difference? There's a really big fundamental difference, and I did told you guys about it, and I also made the diagram when we were discussing about
Yeah,
it.
I remember, but it's like, it's coming to my head.
Okay, yeah. Take your time,
Sorry.
and I'll open the pane. Take your time, and maybe let me draw something so it might ring a bell. This is an array. Okay, when we have a large amount of data, we use what? We use arrays to store them. But when do we use objects? We use objects when we have a lot of properties that belong to a single thing. That's when we use objects. Like, when we have a lot of data that belongs to a single thing, that's when we use an object. For example, let's take this example. So all of these properties belong to a single user, and who's that user? Let me copy this link and I'll tell you who's the user. So this is the user all of this information belongs to. Okay, so when do you use arrays? When you have a lot of data. And when do you use objects? When you have a lot of data but it belongs to a single thing, single user, single element. That's when you use objects. Does that clear something up?
Yeah.
Okay, so repeat for me, please. What does an array and objects are used for? What are they
An
used
array
for?
is for like
Yeah,
a large data,
yeah, a large amount of
and
different
then
data.
the brackets are for the object,
Yeah,
for like a single user.
not just a user, like anything. Like, it can
Element.
be anything. And when you have a lot of properties, a lot of things, a lot of different things that belong to a single thing, that's when you use an object. Okay, so since we're clear on this one, let's now focus on getting all of this data into our own website. First thing first, this isn't available in our website. This is available on this API, this URL. Okay, what do we want to do? We want to get all of this data inside our own website. Okay, this is what we want to do. That's basically called API fetching. So let me create a new project. In fact, let me show you what a real world example of API fetching. It should be here somewhere. Okay, can you see this?
Yeah.
What is this? It's an API. It's an API that fetches the data from where? Google
Google
Sheets.
Sheets.
Yeah. So what do we use APIs for? To get the data, to transport the data. Like whenever we want to do something about the data, like transport it or get it or whatever we want to do with the data, we call an API to do that for us. Okay, so this is the API and it's being called to get the data, to post the data. That's what it's doing. Okay, and this is a real world project, and this is what we are going to do today, inshallah. So let me open a new window and a new file. Let's call it, I'm gonna make a new folder. And let's call it APIs. So what do an API stands for? What does an API stands for? I did told you guys what it
Oh
is.
yeah, you just told us.
Yeah, and what was it?
Application.
Yes. P is for programming interface. Okay, and what does an API do?
It's a link that connects the front end to the back end.
Very good, exactly that. So it basically gets the data from the back end, it puts the data to the back end, it updates the data to the back end, it deletes the data from the back end. Like anything you want to do with a database, you do it with an API. Let's do a let me give you a practical example. Whenever you post on Instagram, what are you doing? You are calling an API, and that API is responsible for taking your photo, your video to the Instagram's database. So API is responsible for each and every procedure, each and every transaction you're seeing and everywhere. Okay, so APIs are the main player. Okay, so let me generate a boilerplate here. Why is it so slow now? Come on. Okay, let me until then make it go live. Let me close all of the windows. Okay, it's loaded now. Let me open the console as well, because first we are going to see the data in the console, then on the front page. Okay, the console, it's still, yeah, now it's working. So let's call it APIs. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so for the time being, we're not going to do anything in the body, so we'll just do the JavaScript part. Script, let me disable the JSONs. Okay, so I'm going to take a variable. And how do we take variables in JavaScript? Let const var. So let's use let API. I'm going to take a variable, let API is equals to, and what is our API? This is our API. So I'm going to copy it, put in a string. Now what do we want to do? We want to get the data from this API. Okay, so I'm going to make a function that is going to fetch me the data from the API. So let's call it const. And how do we make functions, by the way? How do we make a function in JavaScript? Let const, let's use const, and then function name, let's say, let's call it get data. Then no, before the parentheses we have something else. We are trying to before brackets are parentheses. Before the parentheses equals, yes, and then no, before the arrow parentheses, and then arrow, and then curly braces. Okay, yeah. So what do we want to do here is I'm going to take a variable. Now I want you to pay again really close attention here. So first things first, is this API mine or is it someone else's? Is it mine or is it belong to someone else? Someone else. Now basically it's a different server, like it doesn't belong to my server, like it's not hosted on my go live. Okay, it's a separate server. Like it's basically what's happening here is, now currently I'm in Pakistan, yes, and this API is most probably hosted in US somewhere. Okay, I don't know where, but US somewhere. So when you request this API from Pakistan or from any other location, so basically you are pinging, you are making a request to something, some server that doesn't belong to you. Okay, so tell me this, can this server, the one this API is coming from, can this server be slow? Can it be slow?
Yeah.
Can it basically crash? Can it crash or not?
Yeah.
Yes. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, this API is coming from a third party service, and third party service can crash at any moment, can be slow, like it's not, basically you can't rely on it. Yes. So what happens here is, like, how do we read the code? How does JavaScript read the code? Let's say this is our code. Okay, so JavaScript reads the code in a synchronous way. What is a synchronous way? Like, what does synchronous, being synchronized, mean, by the way? Generally, line by line. Exactly, like an order. So basically, how does JavaScript read the code? It reads this line first, then the second, then the third, fourth, and fifth. Okay. So my question is, for example, JavaScript reads this line, and then this line, and then this line. Not this line. Let's say it reads the first one, the second one, but when it reaches into the third line, because of some reason, this line crashes, like it doesn't work. What would happen to these two lines? Exactly, they are not going to be read. Why? Because of this line, some error occurred on this line. Now because of this line, both of these lines are not going to be executed, although the problematic line was the third one, but because of the third one, this one isn't going to be read. Okay, why? Because of the synchronous approach. Now when I was talking about the third party service, because service can be slow, service can crash out, so we don't want our whole code to break because of this single API. Okay, is the problem clear? Like, we don't want our code to break because of a single API, because the server is slow or because server crashes. Is the problem clear or not?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. JavaScript reads the code line by line, and if one line crashes, the other lines won't work. We don't want that. What are we going to say is, instead of using a synchronous approach, we are going to use an async approach. What do you think async means?
Async?
Async, yeah. Like there's sync and then there's async.
They're not in order?
Exactly, they're not in order. For example, what are we going to say to JavaScript is, for example, JavaScript reads this first line. When it reaches to the second line, now JavaScript is seeing that this line is taking time, let's say 3 seconds. Okay, let's say this line is taking 3 seconds. Now JavaScript is going to ignore this line and let it complete for 3 seconds, and until that point, what is JavaScript is going to do is going to skip this line, and it's going to move towards the next line. And if this line is problematic, or this line is taking time, let's say this one is problematic, so JavaScript is going to ignore this line and it's going to move towards the next line. This way, if some part of your code is problematic, other parts of your code are not going to break up. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing, one really important thing. Whenever you are contacting third party services, and what does a third party service mean?
It does not belong to you.
It's exactly, it doesn't belong to you. So what do you use? What are you going to use? You are going to use which approach?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous approach. Perfect. Okay, so that's exactly what we are going to do, and this question is one of the favorite questions of the interviewers, like the asynchronous. They have a lot of questions that come out of this asynchronous stuff. Okay, so how do we make a function? We want to make this function an asynchronous function. Why? Because this function is going to fetch the data from this API. So how do we make a function asynchronous? It's really easy. We just put async before the brackets. Now this one becomes asynchronous. Now if this part is taking 3 seconds or 4 seconds or whatever seconds, this one is going to be working on its own time, and if we have any other line written after it, is going to be executed, no problems. Okay, so inside this function I'm going to take a variable, let's call it response. Okay, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter, let's call it response. So now in this line, in this variable, the response of this API is going to be stored. Okay, and what is the response of this API? What does this API response to you with?
The data.
Yes, all of this data. Yes, so I'm going to take a variable, let's call it response, and here asynchronous isn't used alone. It's not used alone, it's always used with a wait. What does a wait mean?
Like if it have to wait. So
Yes, exactly. If it's taking time, wait for it to complete and then move towards the next line. But it's only for this function. Outside of this function, everything is going to be running normally. Okay, inside this function, this line is telling that wait before you get the response from this API before moving towards the next line. So I'm going to say await, and there's a built-in function in JavaScript that is used to fetch records from the APIs, and it's called fetch. It's a built-in function. Okay, where do we want to fetch the data from,
a URL.
and where is the URL stored?
API.
So we're gonna say API, and that's it. Yeah, you fetch the API. The topic was really big, but the the coding is really small. So let me console log it. Console.log response. Let me save it. Okay, we want to see what's inside this response, and let's go back to our website, but we wouldn't see anything. Why don't we see anything? Why can't we see anything?
Working on the back end, not the front end.
No, the backend response can be shown in the console.
Like the waiting. Oh, something.
No, something else.
Or you didn't call the.
Very good. We haven't called the function, so how are you supposed to see the data inside the function? Whenever you make a function, you cannot see the functionality of that function unless you call it. So how do we call a function? How do we call a function? Get data. Yes, by calling this name. So get data and perfect. So do we see the data now? So what is this data? It's returning me a response. Let me open it up. Now response is what? It's an, what is this? Object. Yes, but this isn't the data that we desire, or is it? It's not. Yes, so what is it? It's called a promise. And what is a promise? Like it's exactly that promise that you guys are thinking. So what is a promise? Promise is something that is either resolved or it is rejected, or there's a third condition that is pending. Whenever you call an API, you get a promise back. Okay, so promise is something that is either resolved or it's rejected or it's in the pending state. So what is this promise's state at the moment? What is its state?
Things were rejected.
How so?
So everything is false.
So everything is false? Yeah, that is a logical thing, but again we have an okay to be true, so doesn't that count? So this promise is resolved. Okay, it's resolved. like everything is working fine. It's saying okay. Okay to be true means that everything is working. Similarly, if you were to see at the status, it's saying 200. Have you guys seen a status that says 404?
Yeah,
What does 404 mean?
error.
Yeah, it's an error. Error of what? Yes, not found. Exactly. 404 means not found. Similarly, 200 means that everything is okay, like everything is perfect. Okay, so this means that our API response is perfect. But we don't want to see this. We want to see something that is like this, like an actual data. So what's happening here is this first line, the API that you call an API, when you call an API, you get a promise back. You have to basically convert that promise into something that is human readable. And how do you do that? It's quite simple. After fetching the API, you have to convert this response into something readable. And how do you do that? Let me take another variable. Let's call it data, and I'm going to say await, because when you convert the response, again it's going to take time. I'm going to say whatever response you have, convert that response into a JSON. What is a JSON? Again, this is one of the interview questions. What is JSON? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So what you see here is a JSON. This is a JSON. This format is called JSON format. Okay, where you have an object, then you have a key, then you have a value. So this is called a JSON format. Okay, so what?
JSON is a framework or?
No. JSON is just a way to represent data. That's JSON. JSON is just a way that you represent data. This, what you're seeing here, is the data being organized. This form is called JSON format. Okay, JSON is just a way to represent data. And always remember, whenever you send the data to the backend, or whenever you get the data from the backend, you always get it or send it in a form of JSON. Okay, and what is JSON? JSON is just a way to represent the data. Is that clear?
There is no another way.
There is a way, but backend only accepts JSON format. Okay, there are a lot of ways, but every kind of backend only accepts the JSON format. Okay, but we don't have to do the work. JavaScript handles it behind the scenes. Okay, so now this is the data we desire. Let's see. Let me console log the data. What do we get?
An
Array of objects. Now if I were to open it, here you go. Well, now you can call yourself some advanced level of developers after doing this exercise. So what is the login? Let me open it as well. So all of this data, where is it coming from?
backend.
Exactly, that backend. So this the first thing is saying login to be Mojombo. Let's see in the actual API. What does login say? Mojombo. So that means that we have successfully fetched the data from the backend into our own front end. Okay, and again, this is one of the most advanced things when it comes to development, fetching the APIs and working with the APIs. Okay, so now we have our record with us. This is the record, but that doesn't, that's not really good. What do we want to do? We want to see the data here. How do we do it? Like, where do we have our data? Where is our data stored? API, yeah, but where? In a variable. Like, we fetch the API, then we converted the API into a JSON format. So
Response
no, response is storing a promise.
or
Data. So data is the actual thing. So what do we want to do? For the starters, what do we want to do is, where is the name of the user stored? Out of all of these things, where is the name of the user is stored? Login. Good. So what do we want to do? We want to see this login on our front page. Okay, is the problem statement clear? Okay, so we know where is the data stored from all of these variables. Where is the data stored? Inside the data. So what we are going to say to JavaScript is, no matter how many users I have, loop through all of the data and get me the name out of that data. Okay, so how can we do that? again I'll repeat it. If you don't get anything, please say there and then. So all of our data is inside this data variable. So what do we want to do? We want to loop over this data and get everything or from this data. Oh sorry, not everything, just the login from this data. So what do we want to loop on? Data.
Data,
How do we loop on a data? How do we loop on arrays?
like for each.
Yeah, for each. We have said it for each. But for each does not returns you anything. And what do we want to do? We want to return something. So instead of for each, what we are going to use is, I'm going to say data dot, instead of for each, I'm going to say map. Map is also like for each, but the fundamental difference is for each does not returns you anything, whereas map returns you something. Okay, so I'm going to say data dot map. It's a function that is going to do what?
Parameter.
Another function. It takes another function. So I'm going to make a function and that's it. Okay, now inside the internal function we take two things. What?
If it's an array, then index and
Well, item and index. Item and
item
index.
and index.
So what is this item storing? It's storing each element one by one of this data. And what is the element of this data? What are the elements of this data?
Like login.
No. Data is this whole array. And what are the elements of this array? These single objects are the elements. So basically all of these elements one by one are stored inside the item. So when the first time loop runs, what is it storing? This first object. When it runs again, it's going to store the second one. When it runs again, it's going to store the third one. Okay?
One object means all data one person.
Yeah. One object would mean that it stores all of this information.
For one object.
Yes, all of this is stored inside of one object, and that one object is stored inside the item. So what are we, let me repeat again. So what we are doing is we are looping on this data. And what is this data? This data is an array of 30 elements. Okay, when we are looping over this data, each element is stored inside the item. And what are the elements of this data? Objects. Which objects? These objects. This one, and this one. And when we open one of the objects, all of these properties are stored inside the item. Okay, so what do we want to do? For the time being, I'm going to say console.log item. And what is inside this item?
The object.
Very good. And how many objects are we going to see?
30.
30. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, and so on to the end. What do we need out of look, this object has a lot of properties, but what do we need?
Only login.
Only login. Yeah, so item is the whole object, but we need only the login. So how do we access the objects?
Data dot.
No, data is an array, item is an object. So what are we going to say? Item dot, and what do we need? Login, and that's it. Here you get all the names, Mojombo, defunct, whatever. Okay, but do we need these names here on the main page?
On
The main page, but the main page is HTML. So what are we going to do? Again, I'll say, please pay close attention. What are we going to do? We are going to make h1s for each data. Like inside this loop, I'm gonna make an h1 each time. So how do we create elements using JavaScript? We have did a whole project regarding this. Do you guys remember or not? Do you guys remember where we did the stars project? When we move our mouse, we have stars going around.
Yeah.
So how do we create elements? Like what do I want to do? I want to see this data here. Yeah. Good, perfect. So I'm going to say let heading inside this loop, okay, because we want to do it for each item. So I'm going to say let heading is equals to document dot create element. And which element do we want to create?
The H1.
Very good, h1. Perfect. And that's it. Now you have how many h1s? Let me open the code. Oh sorry, I haven't appended that. I've just made the h1. Now I want this heading to be included inside the body. So what do we say? We're going to say document dot body dot and then append child.
append,
And which child do we want to append?
H1.
No,
heading,
no, no. H1 is stored inside what? Heading.
heading,
So here you go. How many headings do we have?
30,
30. Yeah. Okay, great. Now inside this heading, what do we want?
or login,
Very good. Login is inside what?
inside heading,
No, no,
heading
no.
dot
No, no, no. I mean,
item,
we do want heading, the login inside the heading. But where is the login stored?
Data.
Data is the whole array. We just
yeah,
want to see
item,
item. Yeah.
item,
So what are we going to say? We want to change the text inside this heading. And how do we change the text inside the heading? H1. We're going to say
style,
heading dot. No, no, not the style. Whenever we want to change the
uh,
text using JavaScript, what do we use?
The inner text.
The inner text. Yeah, good. The inner text or inner HTML. And inner HTML should be equals to what?
item dot login.
Very good. Item dot login. Here you go. Perfect. Now you are fetching the data from the backend. I'm not gonna do anything afterwards after this because you guys are going to do it for that. And what are you guys going to do? Let me tell you. Let me first console.log data, console.log, and this topic I'm going to repeating it again. One of the most advanced topics, and you have to do it. It's really important. What you guys have to do is you need to make the images visible on the main page. Okay, and the images are stored where? The avatar URL. Okay, this is what you want to do. You are going to take this URL and put it inside here so I can see the images. Okay, one thing. The second one is you are going to get this type out of this item. Like you have to put type of each user against itself, like its image. Like is it a user, is it an admin, or what is it? Okay, so what do you have to do? Put the images, like you have to show the images on the main page. I've made the login visible here. You have to make the images and the type of user visible on the main page.
Okay.
Okay, any questions? Do you guys have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, that will be it then, but I'm gonna repeat again, this assignment is really important and you have to do it before the next class, and the next class is tomorrow. Okay, before the next class you have to submit the assignments. Okay, inshallah. Okay, so that will be it. You guys can go. Thank you.